This series of bonus podcast episodes were taken from my 9-hour live stream on the 15th of April 2020. I interviewed 16 speakers back to back whilst on lockdown from the coronavirus pandemic, and I thought I would edit them just for you. Hope you enjoy and stay safe, my friends.
Oh no, I was cutting my hair.
Oh, let's have a look at the sides. Let's have a look.
Yeah. I didn't chop it yet. I got to give it to you, man, for that beard.
Oh man, it's coming on well, isn't it? It's coming on well. Yep, I'm dying to get it off. I'm dying for this whole thing to end. Yep.
Oh, geez. And Ian, I wanted to say, if you got to go pee or something, I'll keep everybody busy for a couple minutes. So I know you're.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm looking around for a bucket, but yeah, I mean, I think I will have to do that shortly. We've got a great Lego workshop planned for about an hour's time. And I was thinking that could be the comfort break, but yeah, if you've got something that might last 2 minutes, it could be a good idea to dart out. But I tell you what was really interesting. Deb was talking about her time over in Boston, and I could see you that were going to come on next. And I think you guys would be really good to chat, because some of your experience would be invaluable. And I think that might be a great place to start, actually, just to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, the short is, I started as a programmer, and then I worked my way up the corporate ladder, and then I got into started my first business and my second business, and then I realized I wasn't a good leader, and I was a good technical guy. I was smart, I was driven, and and that I sort of put the business on my I was driven, and I ran it on my charisma and my willpower. But after we got to a certain point, I realized I didn't have leadership skills, and that was really holding us back. And then there's a longer story, and I think when I talk about this, it has to do with I had a business partner who assaulted me, and then there's substance abuse, divorce, restraining orders, lawsuits, all that stuff in there, which really is the long dramatic story. But we don't got time here, so people are gonna have to tune in for Netflix specials. So
they don't want to actually listen to Netflix for the next half hour, and I ain't going anywhere, brother. I want the story.
I hear you, man. And so I realized I had to do something differently, because my life was a mess. I was making some money and getting some traction, but it's like it wasn't sustainable. And so I actually ended up earning a master's degree in spiritual psychology. And when we say spiritual, nothing to do with religion, but it's a loving, compassionate view of psychology. And I was really training myself to be a leader. So I got coaches and mentors, and that all helped a lot. But it was really understanding more about myself, because I at that point, again, I'm a smart and driven guy, but I was just insecure. I didn't understand myself. And so when I tried to be a leader, it wasn't congruent. So it really was, I wasn't connecting with people. I wasn't showing up really the way people wanted me to were needing me to show up as a leader. And then once I really got to know myself and comfortable with myself, then I got the true confidence. Then I could really step up and be a leader. Everybody talks about authenticity, and I think authenticity is important, but authenticity is a byproduct of people getting comfortable with themselves and getting past trying to be other things rather than what they truly are. And it's interesting, because once I did make that shift, we really had a lot of success. We were on the Inc. 5000 list. We were voted #1 best place to work. I was Social Entrepreneur of the Year. That was externally, but internally, it's like I was finally having fun, because I was finally making an impact. I was connecting to my employees. We became a really high performing, tight team. We were providing such great value to our customers. We were giving back to the community, and I think that's what we're all in business for. And it's like I finally found a system to do that. So some of my friends in California were like, "What are you doing over there?" So I started coaching and teaching them. And now I coach and teach leaders at Microsoft, Uber, Salesforce, those type of companies, and then small companies like for example, Stanford brought me in for a while to help teach their startup community. So that's a little bit mine in a nutshell. I teach leadership because I was such a horrible leader, and so I know all the stuff not to do. So and now I've spent the last 3 weeks basically coaching business owners about the difficult decisions they have to make. Do they have to do layoffs? How to reforecast their pipelines? how to really conserve cash. It's been tough. It's been tough, and now we're out of that phase, I think, and now we're at the phase of how do you really thrive from a leadership and management position through these next couple of months. So, poof, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
It's interesting because I think what you could bring to the table is experience, Michael. And I know we've spoken. You obviously worked through 9/11 and recessions, and I'll be really interested how that worked out for you. So you were in the States during 9/11?
I worked for a European-based company, but I worked for a North American branch, and I just moved over to the UK to support Europe for the North American branch, and I remember watching, because I was dating this. Actually, I was in Denmark, and because that's where it was headquartered. I remember being at her place for dinner with a bunch of relatives, and she's like, and it was on CNN International or BBC or one of those. She's like, "You're real quiet now," because I was watching out of my corner of my eye. I'm like, "We're going to remember this day for the rest of our lives." I mean, this is, and I don't know if everybody remembers it, but you know, it was a different world back then, because when that happened, it was so sudden. We didn't have pandemics, we didn't have terrorist attacks. That happened with no warning, and all of a sudden, just business halted for weeks. Do you remember that time, Ian?
I do indeed, yeah. And I remember actually, I was sitting at work, and I remember watching BBC News. I got an email through that somebody had sent me, and was like, "Check the news out," and I was like, "Wow, just definitely what you just said. They will remember this for a long, long time."
Yeah, and it was such a big thing, and we didn't really know if it was terrorists or like, you know, did somebody crash, but it was more than one plane, and you know, I learned a lot through that. I remember that I was in Europe, and I was talking to one of my buddies, my coworkers, and the top salesperson, his name was Ken, who was one of my mentors. I had a lot of respect for. He was stuck in Vancouver because they were having a sales meeting up in Vancouver, and the guy says, "Hey man, you should see Ken. He's doing something amazing." I'm like, "Well, what is he doing?" Because, you know, we sold multi-million-dollar enterprise software systems. So these were a year-long sales process. Nobody was going to buy these things after this happened. And this is, you know, a day or two after it happened. I said, "Well, what's Ken doing that's so impressive?" And the guy told me that Ken was reaching out to all his prospects and customers and just asking how they were.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the business. It had nothing to do with the sale. He was just checking in. He said, "Can I do anything? Did you know?" Because a lot of people, you know, in the U.S. had friends or family that lived in New York City or might have worked in the towers. And you know, you'd be blown away by how many people were affected with first or second degree contacts. And I really learned just about being human in times of crisis, because he really solidified relationships because of these small acts of kindness through that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was miles away listening to you there and feeling that. But what I thought about was Ken doing this solely from a human point of view. He was interested. It wasn't a sales thing, no?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I think it can be. And actually, this time around, I see society so much more resilient. I live in the UK now, outside of London, and it's you know, and I talk to a lot of relatives and friends in the US, and the issue with the US is they're getting a lot of mixed messaging right now. So, you know, because we have a federal, you know, Trump's at the federal level, and then we have state and then local, and then and we're getting different messaging from federal, state, and local, because your governor who runs a state may say one thing, you know, the federal government and Trump and the administration may say another, and that's very confusing. And then, you know, one state you might, you know, I have relatives in different states. Different states might be telling different people different things, and so in the UK, I found that there's consistent messaging, and it's like we're all in this together. And I think that that's a benefit we have, but it's just something, you know, I thought I might throw out, that everybody doesn't have that type of visibility. And everybody I pass, you know, when I walk my dog and things, you know, everybody's got a smile, and we give each other, you know, space, but everybody's like bringing their best and bringing their compassion. And I think you know, I said to my wife, I'm like, a part of me doesn't want this to end, because it's like I have you know, I do want it to end, but there's like a part of me that likes this simple life and really is appreciating not driving anywhere, going to get our food every couple of days, come cook it at home. And there's a simplicity to life that, I'm sorry, I know I'm off topic and rambling, but
no, you're not, because I feel exactly the same. And I think it epitomizes me when I run on an evening. Everybody says hello now, and I ran last night. And there was an older lady. She was on the other side of the street, and I looked over just to try to catch her eye, to give her a little nod, you know. And she shouted over. She went, "Hey, you're looking fit." And I said, "You're the fit one. Look at how quick you're marching along there, shopping bags." And we wouldn't have done that in the past. It might have been a little nod, or it might have just been literally just a passing. But people are looking for that human interaction now, and I can really tell. And I'm glad you can, and maybe if anyone leaves in something in the comments, if they can tell as well.
Yeah. And it's tough because, you know, they, as business owners and business leaders, whether you lead a team or you're part of a team or whatever, you have to make really difficult decisions right now. You know, I've been talking to a lot of people through layoffs, and you know, because as a business owner, as a business leader, if your business doesn't survive, nobody wins. And that, and they interviewed a bunch of CEOs. They did a study. This is a couple of years ago. They did a study of CEOs that have retired, and they said, what would you have done differently in your go round? You know, if you had to live your leadership life again, what would you do differently? Two things really stuck out. One was they would have gotten rid of mediocre employees quicker, and that's a whole nother conversation for another podcast. Second is they would have made layoffs quicker in a downturn, because, you know, I think we talked about this too, Ian. It's going to be 3 to 6 months. I was talking about this is going to be a 3 to 6 month type thing. And if you're like, hey, I'm going to hold on to people for a month or two and hope a miracle happens, a miracle ain't going to happen. Or if it does, I wouldn't count on it, because you burn so much cash.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went through 9/11, and then a couple of years later, I had that lawsuit, and I learned so much about myself and about the organization. When the Great Recession hit in 2008, 2009, I was ready from the mental, the emotional, and the organizational one. And I pulled my cash, and I actually doubled the size of my business and doubled my profits, because I was able to make an acquisition of a company that wasn't ready for that.
Okay.
And I bought it for $10,000 in 3 years of a percentage of the revenue. So I doubled the size of my company for basically nothing. And if you can make the smart, hard decisions now, and the fact is, you never want to lay people off, but it's better if you do it once and for all in the beginning, so you can tell people. You don't want to do, I think my friend Nigel Risner calls it the salami cuts. You don't want to do today, next week, because everybody's freaking out. If you can do them hard up front and then communicate that we don't have any other coming, people can relax and settle into their jobs. Because everybody knows what's going on. And then you can really prepare yourself, because there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of acquisitions to be had, especially in a month or two. And you're really giving a gift to that organization, because you're allowing them to survive in one way or another. You know, it's a good time to release products, because, you know, if you have a new product, you can give it away to get feedback right now. You know, that might be a good way to do products. There's a good way to get good talent out there. There's a good way to gain market share, but you need cash, and you need to be creative, and you need to do a lot of things, again, from the mental as well as the organizational standpoint, to be able to do that.
I totally agree. And actually, this came through from Suki, and it's interesting, Michael, because you know this, and you probably don't think it's a big thing, and you kind of skirt over it, but actually, from the outside, Suki's picked it up there. How did you find your authentic self? Because you're saying that, you know, when the Great Recession hit, you had it in here and in your heart and in your head and from the organization. Where does this start? What's the awakening? What's the catalyst?
Well, that's a great question. And I went through a 2-year master program and then 2 additional years to do it. And I figure I'm a portion on the journey. So that's a great question but, you know, I got it through a lot of work on myself, through psychology, through therapists, through meditation. And I continue that today. And it's just, to me, it's just, do I get closer to my authentic self? And the thing is, you know, you could think of it as our authentic self is always here. It's just getting rid of all the crap that's between the connection of us and our authentic self. And that shows up as fear, that shows up as sadness, that shows up as guilt. And so the quicker we can be honest with ourselves that we have those thoughts and those emotions, and that we can have the intention to lift them and heal them, the quicker we get to our authentic self. But those are really lifetime journeys.
It is, isn't it? It is. I know you're a huge fan and advocate for meditation. Was that a big part of that, getting rid of that fuzziness and all the rest of the crap that's in there?
For me, yes, it was and continues to be, because when I meditate, well, first thing, I joined this spiritual psychology program, and there was a lot of people that had have done more work on themselves before it. And so, I'm this achiever. I wanted to do it quicker. So, I would ask them, what could I do to speed up my learning? And then so I asked that, and the first person said meditation. I'm like, well, I don't want to meditate because there's really no shortcut. You got to do it. And you got to do it for an extended period of time, and then you get good at it. It's like, so then I asked, so I figured there's got to be a hack, a shortcut. So I asked the next person, they said meditation, and the third person said meditation. I'm like, all right, I guess there's no, I guess meditation's the answer. I wanted a different answer. But for me, when I meditate, it's like life slows down for me, because before my ADD was off the charts, and I used to do a lot of things that weren't healthy for me to manage that and mitigate that. I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke weed. I used to do drugs. I used to do a lot of things basically to slow my life down, because I didn't have these other tools. And now that I meditate, and I can tell, because when I don't meditate, like, life speeds up and I'm so much more reactionary. So something happens, I get angry, right? As I got to get back at this person. And when I'm meditating, something will happen. It's like I have that pause, and it's like, oh, what's happening? And I just look at it from a very, Zen, a very, very neutral standpoint of, hey, this happened. What should I do to get through it? And so, and I teach my flagship transformational leadership course. I don't tell people we do this, so this is a secret, everybody. One of the things we do is I ease people into meditation, and every single person that's been through the course is like, the meditation's amazing, but so many people don't know how to do meditation, and there's ways to do it and ways not to do it. So it's really one of the things. And my intention, this is something that I learned, Ian, that when this was coming, obviously that we knew we were going to get quarantined and everything, I doubled down on my meditation, because this is the time that I really need it, because this is a time where I'm supporting people. I'm going through a lot of change, and there's a saying, and I think it's in Buddhism. It says, I meditate for half an hour a day, unless I'm really busy. Then I meditate for an hour a day. It's sort of like you're running, I bet, your meditation, right? Because when you don't do that, you're probably a little quicker to anger, right? You're a little bit harder on yourself, I gotta guess.
Yeah. I really wanted to touch upon that, because I wanted maybe to inspire or people who don't meditate, is maybe to take that message away that during this pandemic, maybe that's something they could look into.
Absolutely. If they drop me a note, I'm happy to send. I have a book, Soul Centered Leadership, that has a couple of videos that introduce, especially high performing ADD people to meditation. So it's like adapted to them. I'm happy to drop them a link to that. So if they contact me on that, I'm happy to send that, or send something through here and tag me. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Fantastic.
Just going back towards the business side, then, what could any business owners do right now? Obviously, you've been advising people. You're spending your time a lot coaching people around the things to do right now. What are they, Michael? What are you seeing? What are the questions? What are the answers that you're seeing?
Yeah, the one business thing I'll talk about, and then I'll talk about the mental thing, and then maybe we can transition to where to go from here, because I think we're past the phase, or we're just getting to the end of the phase where you have to make the quick hard decisions, because we've been in this for a couple of weeks, and that's about cash flow. Making sure you can do everything to get as much cash as you can now. Get it in, collect as much as you can, make deals, renegotiate your lease, renegotiate your rent, renegotiate with all the different vendors out there. And then, for example, pull your lines of credit. I have a line of credit with one of my software companies. I took everything out because during the Great Recession, banks called the lines of credit. So I know this one lady, she had a company. She was relying on the line of credit. She could have saved her company, but the bank pulled it from everybody. And then she had to sell her company because she didn't have the cash to go through the hard times. And so, apply for every single, government loan or whatever you can, because cash in the bank, because you may say you may not need it now, but then you might get a chance to acquire a company, to buy some market share. I'll tell you, a little bit of cash goes a long way right now. From a mindset standpoint, you have to be careful, because you got to be careful from coming from a place of fear, because you don't want to make decisions from a place of fear. You don't want to show up and talk to your employees from a state of fear, because that's going to put them in a state of fear. It's up to you. This is, as a leader, this is where your character is going to be made. It's easy to be a leader when things are going well and everybody's profitable and the economy is going well. We're going to see people's character. Anybody's character comes through when things are difficult. And so you as a leader have to say, this is a difficult time. How am I going to show up for my team? How am I going to show up for myself and my family? Because you're a role model, like it or not. If you lead a team, your team looks up to you, your peers look up to you, your family and friends, just because of the position you hold, they look up to you, even though you probably don't realize that. And so the energy that you show up with to your meetings, to wherever it is, that is contagious, and it's amplified by 100 because you're the leader. So if you show if you show fear, you're down or you're depressed, they're going to pick that up. And it's okay to have down moments as a leader, but don't go in front of your employees when you're down. So that's why I know Ian's you're great about community. So I know there's peer groups. Reach out to somebody. I think Ian or me would be happy to have a conversation with you just when you're down. I know how difficult it can be. But you really it may be fair or unfair, but you have to be that superhero for your team. And it's okay to acknowledge this is a difficult time, but you have to show people the way out. And you don't have to, you just got to say, hey, we're moving this direction. You don't have to have a detailed plan for the next 3 months, but you got to give them the faith that you're all going to get out of it together, because they're going to ride on that energy. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. Good. I do want to send you this. Where did I have it for you? I'm gonna chat it to you, and maybe you can put it on there. Right now, Ian, I have a survey. It's a 1-question survey, because I spent the last couple of weeks doing a couple of executive briefings, going into more detail what we just talked about. I don't know if you can put that out there for everybody. It's bit.ly/1Q-survey, because a lot of leaders are saying, okay, we made the decisions. Now we have to support our team, and I'm not used to a remote team. And interestingly enough, I do enterprise software, so I've been dealing with remote teams since actually 1997. I'm one of the first people, because we do accounting systems, and so what happened is multi-location manufacturer distributors, they needed something to manage their multi-location business. So Citrix actually came out with a product that now got bought as Terminal Server. Anyway, too much technology. We've been helping people do this actually for a long time. And the question I've been actually had a couple calls today, because people were like, hey, I need to know how to manage this remote team, because people are used to the getting a sense of their team because of one-on-one, face-to-face meetings, body language. I talked to one guy, and he said, hey, my team's out there asking how they're doing, and they're telling me they're okay. Whoops. That was a rookie mistake. Let me shut that off. What's that?
I was going to say they're saying they're okay, but you can't tell because you can't see them. Is it just the British thing where they go, yeah, I'm fine, or whatever?
Yeah, and they're trying to be strong for you too, because they know we're all going through this tough thing. And I was talking to my friend, she's another psychologist, and she was talking about how when it's tough times, people really put up the guards, right? Yeah. So it's like, hey, we know it's tough. We got to be tough for our family. Got to be tough for our customers, our peers. And so we're used to answering, yeah, it's okay, because looking internally and admitting that really takes a safe place, and it takes some skill to really have that conversation. So which actually makes it worse and more difficult for people to go through right now.
Yeah, sure.
And the one question survey is really for people to ask what would support them right now, because I know leaders need support, and so I'm just trying to get a gauge on where everybody's at and where their difficulties are at. So, I mean, if anybody can throw that in the comments, I'd love to comment around that as well.
So in terms of where we are right now, Michael, in business, what would help you now? What do you need support in right now? That's what the survey is asking, is it?
Yeah, it has, so one question, do you need, is it more mental and emotional health things for you as a leader or for your team? Do you need accountability? Is it team performance you're worried about? Because, I talked to, let me got my notes right here. They talk about how, the one guy talked about how he was, I think people are really busy, and in a way, productivity is high because people are scrambling around. But it's a draining type of productivity because we're not used to. I have a 9-year-old, so it's like I have to spend part of my time doing homeschooling, and it's like I don't get that much work done because I got to do the dishes. When my wife works at home too, it's just like this other lady, she's got a 10-month-old. I'm like, how do you get any work done?
Yeah.
Get any work done, and a lot of us are dealing with these things. And, he was talking about how, he has the 3 things he wants to get done every day, but he's not getting them done because there's so many ad hoc things coming in. He's like, this person needs this person needs this. He's like, am I not delegating well? Am I not carving out time? So I think there's a lot of coaching needs to be done and accountability for leaders to make sure that they take care of themselves and they're doing the strategic things. They're not just fighting fires. But how do you do that without putting your team under too much stress? So I think there's a lot going on here for leaders that really are causing a lot of stress. And I think we're going to hit a wall here. I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks, people are going to be burning out. People aren't going to be showing up for meetings. They're going to drop deliverables. I think it's going to really come to a head.
What do you, judging from your survey, what are the main things that are popping out of that? Not wanting to put words in people's mouths, but is it what are the needs? What do they need support in?
Well, they're needing what I don't realize, because I've spent really almost my whole life managing remote teams, and I forget how different that is, because we've always done implementations in enterprise software. I mean, I think you've had experience in this too, Ian, where everybody's on the road, right? So we're all remote by definition. Yeah. And I was talking to a guy in Malaysia, and he's like, companies here, they buy desktops for all their employees. They're used to their butts in seats. He's like, they don't even have laptops for their employees. So all of a sudden their employees are at home and they don't even have anything to do their job. And so I'm like, whoa. And
I hadn't thought about that. How are you going to get a desktop at all? Wow.
Yeah. That's right. And some companies are like that. They don't provide laptops. And so that's just one issue. The other is, people don't know how to run meetings on remotely. They don't know what type of accountability to put in. How and there's that balance between that any leader has, but I think it's amplified now because you want to hold people accountable, but you don't want to micromanage. So what does that look like? And there's a lot of tools I have for getting some transparency and clarity about what's up with expectations, because you don't have those drop-bys. You can't just, and again, I think, like, for example, that leader said there's so much ad hoc things coming in. This is great to talk through, because I just talked to him before this. I think he's having a lot of ad hoc requests of him because he's not spending enough time up front. Because when you have to fight a lot of these fires, that means you're not spending enough time with that person up front, clarifying expectations, thinking through the project. Because to me, a good leader, when you give somebody something to do, you really go through and clarify so that there's, to me, the more back and forth you have after something's given, the more inefficient it is, right?
Yeah.
You get the emails, you get the IMs, those different types of things. So by being more proactive, that can really help with that.
Yeah. So what you're saying there about connecting with people, just connecting with your teams, maybe checking in on them, making a joke, maybe.
It's funny she brings this up, because I'm an introvert and I'm so zoomed out right now. As people are like, let's do a Zoom, like, let's do a phone call. I'm tired of being on camera. And that's, she brings up a great thing that we're such different communication styles, and we're outside of our own rhythm. Yeah. That it really, and she mentions joking and humor, and a lot of leaders have brought up they're making time for some humor and some lightness because it's everything seems so serious. And when we're on, a Zoom call, there's no small talk. We're getting right to, it's almost like there's some obligatory small talk. We're getting right to it. It's not like you and I are having a meeting and it's like, we're chatting. Hey, how's the kids? You look, da, 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 da. It's like, boom. And so they're actually making time for some of that social things. And it really takes a lot of the pressure off. And so I think, I'm not like a fun guy, I'm a bit serious and focused, but I also am seeing the need and benefit for some lightness and some levity through this whole thing. And I think that's really important to bring in too.
Fantastic. Well, I can see our Anne in the green room. Is there anything you're going to leave us with before you head off, Michael?
Well, I'm working. So right now I'm working for some leaders and managers of how to support them through these next couple months, these next 2 to 5 months at least, about remote working tools, remote leadership and management tools. So they're welcome to reach out for me for that. And I'm working with a guy from Glasgow University, actually, and we're studying companies that make it out of a downturn successfully, what they do, from a data standpoint, what companies can do to really hit the ground running when things pop up. So stay tuned for that. Maybe that's something you and I can do to really get the word out there about that.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, hey, thanks so much, Michael. It's been interesting as always, and we must catch up for a pint very soon.